It's swelling quickly. The cowboy pulled up her skirt and did the unthinkable. The cowboy moved slowly along the fence line, checking on his cattle. He had lived alone on this land for many years, finding comfort in the quiet and the endless routine. The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying with it the scent of dry earth and wildflowers. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful, until he noticed something unusual near the edge of the pasture. At first, he thought it might be a stray animal, but as he drew closer, he realized it was a young woman. She stood stiffly, staring at the horizon as if she didn't know where she was. Her clothes were dusty and worn, and her hair hung in tangled strands around her face. There was something about her posture that made the cowboy stop in his tracks. She looked afraid, but not of him. She seemed afraid of something else, something he could not yet see. "Hey there," he called gently, trying not to startle her. "Are you all right?" The woman turned quickly, her eyes wide and full of alarm. She took a small step back, clutching her dress tightly around her. I don't know," she stammered, her voice trembling. I think something's wrong." The cowboy frowned, noticing the tension in her hands. There was a strange bulge under her dress, something that seemed unusual. He couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it made his instincts alert. He had seen a lot in his time, but this was new. He kept his voice calm. "It's okay. You're safe here. Come on, let's get you somewhere you can sit and rest." She hesitated, glancing around as if expecting someone, or something, to appear from the trees. The cowboy waited patiently, giving her space. Slowly, almost reluctantly, she allowed him to lead her toward the small cabin near the center of the ranch. Inside, the air smelled faintly of wood smoke and the lingering scent of horses. She sank into a chair, her hands still clutching her dress as if holding onto a fragile lifeline. "I'm not sure what's happening," she whispered. It's growing. I don't know how, but it's growing fast." The cowboy's brow furrowed. He had dealt with injuries and illnesses before, but he had never heard anyone describe something like that. He moved closer, careful not to make her more nervous. "Can you tell me what's happening?" he asked gently. "Maybe I can help." She shook her head. "No one will help me. They'll only laugh or run away. I don't want to be alone, but I don't want anyone to see it either." The cowboy nodded slowly, understanding the fear in her voice. He had lived his life surrounded by judgment and skepticism. People on the outside often didn't understand the quiet, strange dangers that came with living on a ranch. He knew he could help, but it would take patience and care. "You're not alone now," he said. "I'll help you, whatever it is." For a long while they sat in silence. The only sounds were the occasional creak of the cabin and the distant lowing of cattle. The woman's breathing gradually slowed as she realized he wasn't going to judge her or push her. The cowboy poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to her. "Drink," he said softly. "You must be thirsty." She nodded, taking the glass with trembling hands. The cool water helped calm her nerves, and she sipped slowly, glancing around the cabin as if trying to memorize every corner. After a moment, she spoke again. "It started a few days ago. At first, I didn't think it was anything, but now it's moving faster than I can handle. I can feel it growing even when I try to stop it." The cowboy listened carefully, paying attention to every word. There was a mixture of fear and confusion in her voice, and he could see the strain on her face. He knew he had to stay calm. Panicking would only make her more frightened. "All right," he said carefully. "We'll take it step by step. First, we'll try to understand it, then we'll see what can be done. No one's going to hurt you here." She looked at him with a faint spark of hope. "You really mean that?" "I do," he replied. "I've helped people and animals in worse situations than this. We'll figure it out together." Over the next hour, the cowboy asked her to describe what she felt. She explained how it started as a small, almost unnoticeable change, and then it began to grow faster each day. She described a strange warmth and pressure, like something was alive beneath her clothing. The cowboy nodded, listening carefully and making mental notes. He didn't know exactly what it was, but he understood that she was in genuine distress. As the sky outside darkened, they could hear the distant howl of coyotes. The woman flinched at every sound, and the cowboy offered a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry," he said. "They won't come near here. This is safe." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting both fear and gratitude. "I've never felt safe before," she admitted quietly. "People always treated me like a problem or worse, ignored me completely." The cowboy's heart went out to her. He had known loneliness too, but he had never seen it so raw and unshielded. "Well, you're safe now," he said firmly. "We'll take care of this together." By nightfall, the woman had grown more comfortable in his presence. She still fidgeted and guarded the strange growth under her dress, but she was no longer trembling as badly. The cowboy prepared a simple meal, and they ate quietly, the weight of unspoken fear hanging in the air. Yet despite everything, there was a connection forming, a bond of trust between two people who had known fear and isolation. After dinner, the cowboy offered her a blanket and a place to rest. She hesitated, glancing around the small cabin as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Finally, she accepted, settling on the couch with a careful, cautious grace. The cowboy watched over her, keeping the fire low and the cabin warm. He could sense the tension in her body, the constant fear of what was growing beneath her clothes. As he sat by the fire, he realized that this night was only the beginning. The real challenge had yet to come. Whatever was happening to her was moving fast, and it would not wait for them to be ready. But he also knew that he had made a promise to help her, protect her, and face the unknown with her. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the smell of wet earth from a coming storm. The cowboy felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach, but it was the kind of anxiety that came with readiness. He didn't know what the next day would bring, but he was determined to meet it head-on. The woman slept fitfully, and he remained alert, listening for any changes, any signs that the growth was worsening. Hours passed. The fire burned low, and the ranch was silent except for the soft creaking of the cabin and the distant sounds of night. The cowboy's mind raced with questions. How fast was it really growing? Could it be dangerous? Was there a way to stop it? He didn't have the answers yet, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty: he would not abandon her. By the first light of dawn, the cowboy had made a plan. He would get help, find someone who could examine her safely, and do whatever it took to keep her from harm. But before that could happen, he needed her to trust him completely. He glanced at her sleeping form, her face pale but peaceful for the first time in days. And in that quiet moment, he understood that the coming days would test both of them, her courage, his resolve, and the bond forming between them. The growth was fast, unpredictable, and mysterious, but together they might just face it. And in the midst of fear and uncertainty, a tiny seed of hope began to take root. The sun rose fully over the horizon, casting a warm light over the ranch. The cowboy took a deep breath and prepared for what would come next. Whatever it was, he would face it. And he would not let her face it alone. Morning arrived slowly over the wide ranch, the sky painted in shades of gold and pink. Birds sang softly in the trees, and the wind carried the fresh scent of grass and earth. The cowboy had been awake for a while, watching over the woman as she slept. Her rest had been fitful, but it was the first real sleep she had managed in days. He could see the tension in her face, even in slumber, and it made him more determined to help her. He quietly moved around the cabin, feeding the animals and preparing a small breakfast. The smell of warm bread and coffee soon filled the air, a gentle comfort in the otherwise tense morning. When the woman woke, she looked at him with wary eyes, her hands still tightly clutching her dress. "Good morning," he said softly, placing a plate in front of her. "I made breakfast. Eat something, it'll help you feel stronger." She hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you," she murmured, taking small bites. She glanced down at her dress, and he noticed her fingers twitching nervously. He could tell she was still very worried about what was happening to her. After breakfast, the cowboy sat across from her. "I think we need to figure out what's going on," he said gently. "We can't just wait and hope it stops on its own." "Do you think you can tell me more about what's happening?" She looked down at her lap, her voice barely above a whisper. "It started a few days ago. At first, it was just a small lump. I thought it was nothing, just something that would go away, but it didn't. And now it's growing too fast. I can feel it changing all the time, and I don't know what to do." The cowboy listened carefully. "Do you think it hurts?" he asked. "Or is it just uncomfortable?" It's more than uncomfortable," she admitted. "It feels strange, and sometimes I feel a pressure like something is moving beneath my skin. I can't control it. I don't know how to stop it." He nodded, keeping his voice calm and steady. "All right, we're going to handle this together. First, we need to make sure it's safe. If it's growing fast, we need someone who knows how to deal with things like this." Her eyes widened slightly. You mean a doctor?" "Yes," he said. "Someone who can examine you safely and tell us what's really going on, but we have to be careful. I don't want you to feel embarrassed or scared." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. I'll try." After a moment, the cowboy helped her stand. He noticed how tense her body was, how she seemed ready to pull back at any sudden movement. He guided her carefully to the small horse-drawn wagon he kept near the cabin. "We'll take it slow," he said. "No rush." The ride to the nearby town was quiet. The woman kept her eyes fixed on the horizon, and the cowboy didn't push her to speak. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, but he also knew he had to stay calm for her sake. When they arrived, the town was just beginning to wake. Shopkeepers opened their doors, and children ran along the dirt streets, laughing and chasing each other. The cowboy led the woman to a small clinic on the edge of town, a simple building with whitewashed walls and a welcoming porch. Inside, the doctor greeted them with a warm smile. "Good morning," he said. "How can I help you today?" The cowboy explained the situation carefully, keeping the focus on her safety and comfort. "She's experiencing something unusual," he said. "It's growing fast, and we're not sure what it is. We need your help to figure it out safely." The woman shifted nervously, her hands clutching her dress. The doctor nodded kindly. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll take care of you. Just tell me what you're feeling, and we'll go step by step." The examination began slowly. The woman was hesitant, but the cowboy stayed close, offering support. He didn't leave her side, and his calm presence seemed to give her courage. The doctor asked questions gently, examining the growth without rushing. He took careful notes and observed how it reacted to touch and movement. After a while, the doctor looked up. "This is unusual," he said softly. "I've seen similar cases, but never one that has grown this quickly. We'll need to monitor it closely and take careful steps to prevent it from becoming dangerous." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Dangerous," she whispered. "Right now, we don't know for sure," the doctor explained. "But we'll do everything we can to keep you safe. You're not alone in this. You have people who care about you." The cowboy placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "See, you have support," he said. "We'll figure this out together. No matter what happens, I won't leave your side." The woman looked at him, a mixture of relief and fear in her eyes. She had never felt anyone care for her like this before. Most people had ignored her, judged her, or turned away. But here was someone who stayed, even when things were uncertain and scary. After the initial examination, the doctor suggested a plan. They would need to return regularly for checks, and in the meantime, the woman needed to rest and stay calm. Any stress could make the growth worsen. The cowboy agreed immediately, promising to make sure she felt safe and comfortable. As they left the clinic, the woman's steps were hesitant. I don't even know how to thank you," she said softly. "You don't need to thank me," the cowboy replied. "I'm just doing what anyone would do. You need help, and I'll be here." The ride back to the ranch was quieter than before. The woman looked out at the rolling hills, and for the first time in days, she felt a small sense of relief. She realized that she wasn't completely alone and that the cowboy was someone she could trust. Back at the ranch, the cowboy prepared the cabin for her return. Fresh blankets, a warm fire, and a simple meal waited for her. She settled in, still wary but less tense than before. The cowboy sat nearby, reading quietly but keeping a watchful eye on her. Throughout the afternoon, they talked in small ways. The woman told him fragments of her story, how she had been traveling alone, how the growth had appeared suddenly, and how scared she had been to ask for help. The cowboy listened without interruption, offering small words of encouragement. He didn't press for details she wasn't ready to share. By evening, the ranch was quiet again. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples. The woman sat near the fire, a blanket draped over her shoulders, watching the flames dance. The cowboy poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to her. "Drink," he said softly. "It'll help you relax." She nodded, taking the warm cup and sipping slowly. The warmth seemed to seep into her body, calming her nerves. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe that maybe things could be all right. Maybe she could face this strange, frightening growth with someone by her side. The night deepened, and the sounds of the ranch settled into a gentle rhythm. The cattle lowed softly, the wind rustled through the trees, and the distant howl of a coyote reminded them both of the wildness of the land. The cowboy kept his vigil, knowing that the coming days would test both of them. But he also knew that they had made progress. She was beginning to trust him, and trust would be their greatest strength in facing what came next. As the woman drifted to sleep that night, she felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The growth was still there, still growing, but it no longer seemed quite so overwhelming. She had someone who cared, someone who would not turn away. And for the first time in a long while, she believed that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. The cowboy watched her sleep, the firelight casting soft shadows across the cabin. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The growth was unpredictable, and there were many questions that remained unanswered. But he also knew one thing for certain: he would not abandon her, no matter how difficult the days ahead might be. Outside, the wind whispered through the grass, carrying with it a promise of change. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And in that quiet, gentle moment, the first seeds of hope began to grow in both their hearts. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting warm light across the rolling hills. Birds chirped cheerfully in the trees, and a soft breeze carried the smell of fresh grass and earth. The woman stirred in the cabin, waking to the quiet sounds of the ranch. For the first time in days, she felt a small sense of calm. The cowboy was already up, tending to the animals outside, his movements steady and confident. When she stepped out onto the porch, he greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well," she nodded, rubbing her eyes. "A little. It feels safer here than anywhere I've been in a long time." The cowboy's gaze softened. "That's good. Today we're going to take another step. I think it's time we try to understand more about what's happening." Her eyes widened slightly. "Understand? How?" "The doctor already looked at it yesterday." "Yes," he said, "but seeing it once isn't enough. It's growing fast, and we need to know how fast and what we can do to help it. I want to do this slowly, carefully, so you don't feel scared or overwhelmed." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll try." They started by sitting outside near the porch, where the sunlight was warm but not too harsh. The cowboy asked her to describe exactly what she felt. She explained that it felt like a small pressure at first, then warmth, and now it sometimes moved in ways that startled her. The cowboy listened closely, asking gentle questions to help her describe it more clearly. "I can feel it," she said quietly, "like it's alive or like it's trying to get bigger faster than I can stop it. Sometimes it's just uncomfortable, but other times it makes me scared." The cowboy nodded slowly. "I understand." It's scary when something grows so fast and you can't control it. But we'll take this one step at a time. We'll try to understand it, and we'll get help if we need to. They spent the morning carefully examining the situation together. The cowboy kept his tone calm, encouraging her to explain everything she noticed. They marked changes in a small notebook, noting times of day, feelings, and any unusual sensations. This careful record-keeping helped the woman feel more in control, even as the growth continued. Around midday, the cowboy suggested they visit the doctor again. "It's better to check it sooner rather than later," he said. "We need to know if it's getting worse or if it's steady." The woman looked hesitant. "Do I really have to?" "You don't have to do anything you don't want to," he said gently. "But checking now could help us prevent bigger problems later. I'll be there with you the whole time." She nodded slowly, realizing she could trust him. "All right," she said softly. The trip to town was quiet. The woman stayed close to the cowboy, her hands fidgeting in her lap. The ride was gentle, the wagon moving smoothly over the dirt roads. For a moment, she allowed herself to enjoy the simple beauty of the land, the wide fields, the distant hills, and the peaceful sky. It reminded her that there were still places in the world where she could feel safe. When they arrived at the clinic, the doctor greeted them warmly. "Good morning," he said. "How's it been since yesterday?" The cowboy explained the changes, emphasizing the rapid growth. "She's noticed it changing more quickly," he said. "We need to see if there's anything we can do to keep it under control." The woman stood quietly, her hands clutching her dress, as the doctor examined her again. This time he moved more carefully, using gentle touch and asking her to describe every sensation. The cowboy stayed close, offering quiet reassurance. After a long examination, the doctor looked up. "This is unusual but not impossible," he said. "It's growing quickly, yes, but it's not yet dangerous if we handle it carefully. We need to monitor it closely, and you need to stay calm and rested. Stress can make it worse." The woman's eyes widened. "So, it's not dangerous yet?" "Not yet," the doctor said. "But we have to act carefully. We can't ignore it." The cowboy nodded. "We'll do whatever is needed. You're safe with me." The woman felt a wave of relief. For the first time in days, she believed someone genuinely cared about her well-being. She realized that, with the cowboy by her side, she might actually face this strange problem and get through it. After returning to the ranch, the cowboy helped her settle in for the afternoon. He prepared a light meal and encouraged her to rest. She sat near the window, watching the wind move the tall grass outside, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. "I never thought someone could care about me like this," she said quietly. "Why not?" the cowboy asked gently. "Because people usually run away or they make fun of me," she admitted. "I've been alone for a long time and I thought that was just the way it was." The cowboy smiled softly. "You're not alone anymore, and you deserve care and kindness just like anyone else." As the afternoon passed, the woman began to feel slightly stronger. She even managed a small smile at one point, something she hadn't done in days. The cowboy noticed and felt a quiet satisfaction. This was progress, no matter how small. Later, he suggested they take a short walk around the ranch to get some fresh air. She hesitated at first, nervous about moving too much, but he encouraged her gently. Together, they walked along the edge of the pasture, the wind brushing against their faces. The woman noticed the cattle grazing nearby and the distant hills bathed in golden light. For a while, they walked in silence, each lost in thought. Then the cowboy asked, "Do you remember what it felt like when this started?" She nodded. "It was small at first. I thought it was nothing, but then it began growing faster and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I didn't know what to do, so I ran away, hoping it would stop, but it didn't." The cowboy listened carefully. "You did the right thing by coming here," he said. "Running away wouldn't have helped. You needed help and you found it." She looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. They walked back to the cabin as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the land. The woman felt exhausted but safe. She realized that she was beginning to trust someone completely, something she had never done before. That night, the cowboy stayed up late, checking the records they had kept and planning the next steps. He knew the growth was unpredictable and that they needed to stay alert. He also knew that the woman's trust was fragile and that he had to protect it carefully. The woman slept peacefully for the first time in many nights, and the cowboy kept a quiet vigil nearby. He watched the firelight flicker across the cabin, thinking about how quickly life could change. One day she had been alone and scared. The next, she had someone who cared and would fight to keep her safe. As he sat there, he realized that the challenges ahead would be even harder. The growth was fast and unpredictable, and they would need courage, patience, and careful planning to manage it. But for the first time, he also felt a quiet hope. They were no longer facing this alone. And in that hope they found strength. Together they would face the coming days, step by step, no matter how difficult the journey might be. The bond forming between them was more than friendship. It was trust, protection, and understanding. And in a world full of uncertainty, that was something powerful and rare. The night deepened, and the ranch became quiet once more. The stars shone brightly in the clear sky, and the wind whispered through the grass. The cowboy felt a calm determination settle in his chest. No matter what happened next, he would stand by her side. The growth was fast and strange, but together they would face it. And together they would survive. The morning air was crisp and cool as the sun rose over the ranch. A soft mist clung to the grass, and the distant hills seemed painted with shades of gold and green. The woman had slept better than the previous night, but there was still a tension in her movements that betrayed her worry. The cowboy had been awake before her, feeding the animals and tending to the ranch chores. He moved quietly around the cabin, careful not to disturb her. When she finally emerged, rubbing her eyes and stretching, the cowboy greeted her with a warm smile. "Morning," he said gently. "How did you sleep?" "Better," she replied softly, her voice still quiet but steadier than before. "I feel a little stronger." "That's good to hear," he said. "Today we need to take another step. The growth is still moving fast and we need to see what's happening before it gets worse." Her eyes widened slightly and she glanced down at her dress. I'm scared," she admitted. The cowboy knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "I know," he said softly. "I'm scared too, in a way, but we'll face it together. I'll be right here with you the whole time. You're not alone." She nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. Slowly, she agreed to let him help examine the growth more closely. He kept his movements gentle, speaking in a calm, steady voice to reassure her. As he carefully adjusted her clothing to see the area safely, he noticed how tense she remained, every muscle ready to pull away. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'll be careful. We'll just take a look. If you feel uncomfortable, we stop immediately." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. As he examined the situation, he realized how quickly it had changed. The growth was larger than before, moving in ways that were unusual and unpredictable. The woman winced slightly, but he remained steady, speaking softly to guide her through the moment. "It's all right," he said. "I can see it. We can figure this out together. Nothing's going to hurt you." She took a shaky breath and allowed him to continue. The cowboy's careful attention and calm demeanor seemed to ease her fear slightly. She realized that for the first time in days, she wasn't facing this alone. After a long, careful observation, the cowboy stepped back. "It's definitely growing faster," he said. "We need to act carefully and make a plan before it becomes dangerous." The woman's eyes widened. "Dangerous?" she asked softly, fear creeping into her voice. "Not yet," he reassured her, "but we need to be prepared. The doctor can help, but we also need to do what we can here to make sure you stay safe." She nodded slowly, trusting him completely now. I know I can trust you," she whispered. The cowboy gave her a small smile. "Good, that trust will help us through this." He decided that they needed to find a temporary solution to slow the growth until they could get more help. He gathered supplies, clean cloths, warm compresses, and water, and carefully began a gentle process to stabilize the area. It required patience and careful attention, and the woman flinched at first, unsure if he would hurt her. "It's all right," he said again. "I'm just helping. You're safe." Slowly she relaxed, feeling his steady hands and calm voice. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could handle this together. As the day went on, they monitored the growth carefully. The cowboy kept track of every change, noting the speed and direction of growth. The woman remained close, sharing how she felt and what she noticed. They worked as a team, and for the first time in many days, she felt a sense of control over the situation. By late afternoon, however, the growth began to accelerate. It was faster than either of them expected, and a sense of urgency filled the cabin. The cowboy realized that if they didn't act quickly, it could become dangerous. He spoke calmly but firmly. "We need to do something now," he said. "It's moving faster than before, and we have to stabilize it." The woman's eyes filled with fear. I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "You can," he said gently. "I'll be with you. Just trust me and breathe. We'll take it step by step." He carefully adjusted her clothing again, ensuring she was comfortable and safe. Then, with steady hands, he began the process that could help control the growth temporarily. It required precise movements and patience, but he focused entirely on her safety. The woman flinched at first, but his calm voice and careful attention reassured her. "You're doing great," he said. "Just a little more and it will be under control for now." Minutes passed slowly, each one filled with tension and care. The woman held her breath, trusting him completely. Finally, the cowboy stepped back, wiping his hands and checking her for any discomfort. "You did it," he said softly. "It's stabilized for now. You're safe." She exhaled slowly, relief flooding her face. I can't believe it," she whispered. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said gently. "We did this together. You were brave, and that's what helped." For a moment they sat quietly, catching their breath. The cabin was warm from the sunlight streaming through the windows, and the wind whispered gently through the trees outside. The tension from earlier in the day slowly began to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment and relief. "You've really helped me," she said, her voice filled with emotion. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You don't have to worry about that now," he said softly. "You're safe, and we'll keep working on this together, step by step." The woman looked at him, a faint smile appearing on her face for the first time in days. I feel like I can face this now," she said. "Because you're here." The cowboy nodded, feeling a sense of quiet pride. It wasn't just about stabilizing the growth. It was about trust, courage, and hope. They had faced a frightening moment together and come through it safely. And in that shared experience, a bond had grown stronger between them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cabin, the woman prepared to rest. The cowboy made sure she was comfortable, placing fresh blankets and a warm drink nearby. He stayed close, ready to respond if anything changed during the night. She drifted off to sleep, feeling safer than she had in many days. The cowboy watched her quietly, thinking about the challenges they had already faced and the ones that were still ahead. The growth was still fast and unpredictable, but for the first time they had a sense of control. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, carrying with it the promise of another day. The cowboy remained vigilant, knowing that the journey was far from over. But he also knew that the bond they had formed, built on trust, courage, and care, was strong enough to face whatever came next. And in that quiet night, with the woman sleeping peacefully and the ranch bathed in soft moonlight, he understood that sometimes the unthinkable wasn't about fear or danger. It was about trust, bravery, and stepping up when someone needed you the most. Together they had faced the unknown, and together they would face whatever came next, stronger and more prepared than before. The morning light spilled gently over the ranch, painting the rolling hills in soft shades of gold. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of grass, wildflowers, and the distant stream that ran through the property. The woman had woken feeling calmer than she had in days. The cowboy was already up, checking the animals and preparing breakfast. The routines of the ranch provided a quiet stability that both of them needed. When she stepped outside, he greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning," he said. "How are you feeling today?" "Better," she replied softly, a small smile appearing on her face. I think I can face today." "That's good to hear," he said. "Today we'll check the growth again, but remember, we take it slowly. No rush, no pressure." The woman nodded, feeling a mixture of nervousness and relief. Over the past few days, she had learned to trust the cowboy completely. He had stayed by her side through fear, uncertainty, and rapid changes. He had helped stabilize the growth, calmed her worries, and offered her safety when she had felt most vulnerable. Now she felt more confident facing the day because of his support. They started by sitting near the porch, where the sunlight was warm but gentle. The cowboy carefully observed her, noting any changes and asking how she felt. She explained that while the growth was still present, it didn't feel as frightening as before. The calm, steady environment of the ranch seemed to help, as did the trust she now had in him. "You've really helped me feel safe," she said quietly. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me," he replied softly. "You've been brave, and that's what matters. We face this together step by step." After a short rest, they prepared to travel to the doctor again. The trip was calm and quiet. The woman stayed close to the cowboy, feeling secure despite the ongoing uncertainty. When they arrived, the doctor examined her carefully, noting the progress and stability of the growth. "This is much better than yesterday," he said. "It's still unusual, but it seems like your body is adjusting. The cowboy's careful work and your calm approach have helped stabilize it. Keep resting and continue monitoring it closely. You're on the right path." The woman's eyes filled with tears of relief. I can't believe this is happening," she whispered. "I feel like I'm finally safe." The cowboy placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You are safe," he said, "and we'll make sure it stays that way. We're not done yet, but we're moving in the right direction." Returning to the ranch, the woman felt lighter than she had in days. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax and enjoy the quiet beauty of the land. She walked slowly along the porch, watching the cattle graze and the sunlight dance on the grass. The cowboy followed, keeping a gentle eye on her but letting her enjoy the small freedom of movement. "I never thought I'd feel this peaceful again," she admitted quietly. "I've been alone for so long, always scared, but here it feels different." "That's because you're not alone anymore," he said softly. "You have someone who cares, someone who will stay by your side. That makes a difference." Throughout the day, they worked together to maintain calm and stability. The cowboy helped her with small tasks around the cabin, offering support without taking away her independence. She found strength in his guidance and care, realizing that she didn't have to face the unknown alone. As the sun began to set, casting warm golden light across the ranch, the woman reflected on the journey she had been through. Just a few days ago, she had been wandering alone, frightened by something she could not understand. Now she was safe, cared for, and beginning to feel hope. She looked at the cowboy, gratitude and trust shining in her eyes. "You've really changed my life," she said softly. "I never thought anyone would help me like this." "You've done all the hard work," he replied gently. "I've just been here to support you. You faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown. That takes courage." They watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple. The ranch was quiet, the animals settling in for the night, and the wind moving softly through the trees. It was a peaceful moment, one that seemed to promise a fresh start. Over the next few days, the cowboy and the woman continued to care for the growth, monitoring it closely and keeping her safe. Each day, she grew stronger, not just physically, but emotionally. She learned to trust herself, trust him, and trust the process. The bond between them grew deeper with every passing moment, a connection built on patience, courage, and mutual care. One morning, as they sat on the porch watching the sunrise, she spoke quietly. "I feel like I can start over now, like I can live without fear." "You can," he said softly, "and you won't be alone. We'll face the future together." The woman smiled, a true, relaxed smile that reached her eyes for the first time in days. The fear and uncertainty that had haunted her were fading, replaced by hope and trust. She realized that the challenges she had faced had made her stronger, and the support she had received had shown her that she was not alone in the world. As the days passed, the growth finally stabilized. The doctor confirmed that, with careful monitoring, it was no longer a threat. The woman's health improved and her confidence returned. She began to help around the ranch, learning new skills and taking part in the daily routines. She felt a sense of accomplishment and independence, balanced with the comfort of knowing the cowboy was always there to support her. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she looked at him with gratitude and admiration. "I don't know how to ever repay you," she said softly. "You don't need to," he replied. "Seeing you safe, calm, and happy, that's enough. That's all I ever wanted." The woman smiled, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. She realized that life could be kind, even after fear and uncertainty. And she understood that trust and courage could make the unthinkable challenges manageable. Over time, their bond grew stronger. The cowboy and the woman became a team, facing the unpredictable challenges of life on the ranch together. The growth, once a source of fear and danger, had brought them together and taught them the value of patience, courage, and care. One bright morning, they stood together on the porch, looking out over the land. The woman took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun and the fresh air. "I feel free," she said quietly, "like I can finally live my life." "You can," the cowboy said gently, "and I'll be here for you every step of the way." The woman smiled, a smile full of hope and gratitude. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe, cared for, and ready to face the future. The ranch, the quiet land, and the cowboy who had never left her side had given her a second chance, a new beginning. As the day went on, they worked together, laughed together, and shared quiet moments of companionship. The fear that had once dominated her life had been replaced with trust, courage, and hope. She had survived the unthinkable challenge, and she had grown stronger because of it. And in the quiet evening light, with the ranch calm and peaceful around them, the cowboy and the woman knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The growth, once a source of fear, had brought them together and shown them the power of trust, care, and bravery. For the woman, life had changed completely. She had found safety, trust, and a friend who would not abandon her. And for the cowboy, he had proven that courage and care could make a real difference, even in the most unexpected situations. Together they had faced the unknown, and together they had come through stronger, wiser, and hopeful for the future. The stars shone brightly above the ranch that night, reflecting in their eyes as they sat quietly by the fire. The air was calm, the land peaceful, and a sense of completion settled over them. The unthinkable challenge had been met, and in its place, a new beginning had begun.